Have you ever wondered what life is really like inside a nursing home? It's a question many of us quietly face as we or our loved ones grow older. I want to share something personal, something I didn't fully understand until I experienced it myself. Moving into a nursing home seemed like the right choice at the time, encouraged by family and the promise of care and comfort. But the reality? It was far from what I imagined. I'm not here to scare you, but to gently reveal truths that often go unspoken. Like many, I thought it would be an easy transition, a place to rest, to be looked after, and to find peace. I pictured myself surrounded by kindness and calm. Yet, as the days passed, I found myself missing the small freedoms I once took for granted. The ability to choose when to wake, what to eat, even when to take a walk. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. I've walked that path, feeling the same mix of hope and hesitation. But here's the good news. There are simple, practical ways to prepare and protect your independence and dignity, even in a nursing home setting. You don't have to lose yourself in the process. Some of these insights might surprise you. Little-known truths and easy adjustments that can transform your experience and help you hold on to what truly matters. So as you watch, ask yourself, how can I keep living life on my terms, no matter where I am? Because you deserve to live well, with respect and joy, every single day. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. 1. Losing my independence. It's funny. The little things you never think you'll miss until they're gone. When I was still living at home, I never paid much attention to my daily routines. The way I'd wake up whenever I pleased, wander into my kitchen, and make a fresh cup of coffee just the way I liked it. Sometimes I'd sit by the window in my favorite chair, reading a few chapters of a novel before deciding what to do next. If the sun were out, maybe I'd go for a stroll in the neighborhood, or tend to my garden out back, clipping dead roses and fussing over tomatoes. All of these decisions, from the mundane to the meaningful, were mine and mine alone. So, when my family began talking to me about moving into a nursing home, I'll admit I brushed off the idea at first. I'm still fine on my own, I'd tell them, half convinced and half trying to convince myself. But age has a way of catching up with you, no matter how stubborn your spirit is. Eventually, small tasks, hauling groceries, fixing a leaky faucet, or even taking out the trash on a rainy day, became trickier. I could see the worry in my daughter's eyes each time she visited. She'd gently say, "Mom, you deserve to take it easy. Let someone else help for a change." And truth be told, the idea of letting someone else do the heavy lifting started to sound less like surrender and more like relief. When I finally agreed, I thought, well, at least I'll have more time to rest. Maybe I'll meet some new friends, have a change of scenery. The nursing home staff were polite, the rooms looked clean, and everyone promised I'd be safe and comfortable. But no one warned me about the subtle ways independence begins to slip through your fingers the moment you walk through those doors. My first night in the nursing home was quiet, almost eerily so. I unpacked my suitcase, just a few favorite books, some photographs, and my knitted blanket from home. The room was smaller than I'd expected, the bed firmer. The window didn't look out on my garden, but onto a stretch of parking lot. I tried to settle in, telling myself it was just another chapter in my life. But the next morning, I woke to the sound of staff knocking and reminding me it was time for breakfast. Not when I felt hungry, but according to a schedule I hadn't set. That's how it starts. At first, you don't notice much, just that your meals come at the same time every day, whether you're hungry or not. Someone else picks up your laundry, changes your linens, and sweeps the floors. You get used to having your medication handed to you in a little cup with water, rather than reaching into your kitchen drawer. Some might call it luxury, but over time, it begins to feel like your choices are shrinking. I remember the first time I wanted to take a walk outside after lunch. The weather was lovely, a gentle breeze, soft sunlight. I asked the staff if I could go out for a bit, and they smiled, saying, "Of course, just wait a moment for someone to assist you." So I sat on the edge of my bed, waiting. 5 minutes, then 10, then 20. By the time someone was available, the moment had passed, and I'd lost interest. That was the first time it hit me. I couldn't just come and go as I pleased anymore. I needed permission, assistance, and patience. The little things I'd always taken for granted. Choosing what to wear, deciding what to have for lunch, when to rest, and when to be active, now felt like privileges, not rights. There were times when I wanted to sleep in, but breakfast would be served promptly at 7:30, and missing it meant waiting until lunchtime. If I wanted something different to eat, I was told kindly, "This is what's on the menu today, dear." Sometimes it made me feel like a child again, as if the world around me no longer trusted my ability to decide for myself. I tried not to let it bother me. I told myself it was only a matter of getting used to a new routine. I'd smile and say thank you when someone helped me dress, even though I secretly wished for the dignity of doing it myself. But over the weeks, I found myself adapting. Not because I wanted to, but because it was easier than pushing back. I stopped asking for small favors, stopped questioning the schedule, and stopped insisting on doing things my way. The staff meant well, and I appreciated their kindness, but I began to feel invisible in my own life. The hardest realization, though, was waking up one morning and understanding that I was no longer truly in charge of my days. My identity, which for decades had been built around making my own choices, had quietly slipped away. I felt myself shrinking, not just in body but in spirit. The world inside the nursing home seemed to move on rails, every hour accounted for, every decision made on my behalf. Even my hobbies lost their spark. There was no garden to tend, no kitchen to experiment in, and the library, though well-stocked, wasn't quite the same as curling up in my sunlit living room. I missed the unpredictability of life, the days when I could wake up and decide, on a whim, to bake a batch of cookies or drive to the park. In the nursing home, spontaneity is replaced with structure. Routines aren't bad, but when they become cages, even the most comforting rituals lose their warmth. It's not just about pride, you see. Independence is woven into the fabric of who we are. It's about the confidence that comes from managing your affairs, the self-respect that grows when you overcome small challenges, the dignity of choosing for yourself, even if your choices are simple. When those freedoms are gradually taken away, you begin to wonder, who am I, if not the sum of my daily choices? I remember one afternoon sitting by the window, watching the shadows lengthen on the sidewalk. A staff member came in, cheerful as always, to ask if I wanted to join the bingo game. I almost said yes, out of politeness, but then I paused. What I wanted was to call my sister, to talk and laugh and remember the lives we lived before schedules and sign-in sheets. But visiting hours had just ended, and phone privileges weren't always flexible. I felt an ache, not just of loneliness, but of loss. The loss of being able to do what felt right in the moment for me. If I could go back and give my younger self advice, I'd say, cherish your independence fiercely. Hold on to the routines that give you joy and the freedom to shape your days. If you're considering a move into a nursing home, think carefully about what independence means to you. It's not just the big decisions, but the 1,000 small ones that fill up a life. I don't want to paint all nursing homes with a single brush. Some do an incredible job of respecting their residents' autonomy, and some people truly thrive in such settings. But for me, the cost was greater than I expected. The warmth of my own home, the control over my own time, the simple pleasure of choosing what's next. These are things I miss more than I ever thought possible. And so, as you think about your journey or help a loved one navigate these choices, ask yourself, what are you willing to trade for convenience or safety? Are there ways to get help at home, to adapt your living space, to lean on friends or family, so you can hold on to your independence a little longer? Because once it slips away, Reclaiming it is harder than you can imagine. I hope that by sharing my story, you'll take a moment to pause and reflect. Independence is not just a luxury of youth. It's a treasure at any age, and worth protecting for as long as you can. 2. Feeling forgotten. Of all the changes I faced after moving into the nursing home, nothing stung quite like the slow, creeping feeling of being forgotten. I had always prided myself on being someone others could count on. A mother, a grandmother, a neighbor who baked extra cookies for friends and remembered birthdays with a phone call or a card. My house was the place family gathered for Thanksgiving, where laughter echoed in the kitchen and little feet raced down the hallway. I never imagined that one day, the sound I'd hear most often would be the soft click of a clock ticking away the hours in a quiet room. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. In the beginning, my family tried so hard to make sure I felt loved and included, and I will always be grateful for those first weeks. My daughter visited every Saturday, her arms full of flowers or a new book she thought I'd enjoy. My son called in the evenings, asking about my day and telling me about his own. The grandkids, their voices bubbling with excitement, would chatter about school, their friends, and the little dramas of their young lives. Those visits meant everything to me. They made the beige walls of my new room feel less foreign, reminded me I was still a part of something bigger, even if my address had changed. But as the seasons shifted, so did the rhythms of family life. I told myself not to take it personally. Everyone was busy, after all. The kids grew up, got tangled in the wonderful chaos of jobs and college, and friendships. My daughter, always juggling more than she let on, sometimes called instead of coming by. "Mom, I just want to hear your voice," she'd say. "I'll stop by soon, I promise." Sometimes, weeks would pass before soon arrived. At first, I tried to keep up the connection. I sent birthday cards, little notes, even cookies I'd made in the activity room. I called, left messages, and reminded myself that life is a river, always moving, sometimes rushing so fast you barely have time to catch your breath. But the truth is, each time a holiday came and went, or a birthday passed with only a quick phone call, a small ache grew inside me. I never blamed them. I understood better than anyone how time slips away and days fill up before you realize it. Still, the loneliness felt heavier in a place designed for many but, at times, deeply solitary. There are rooms filled with people, yet so many of us sit quietly, our thoughts wandering to memories of full dinner tables and the chaos of family gatherings. I remember watching other residents gaze at the entrance during visiting hours, hope flickering in their eyes every time the door opened. Sometimes, someone's face would light up, a son or daughter, a friend from church. Other times, the only visitors were nurses or volunteers, well-meaning but not the people we ached for. I started to notice the difference between being alone and feeling forgotten. Alone can be peaceful. It can be a choice, a moment to recharge. Forgotten is different. Forgotten is waiting for the phone to ring, holding it in your hand, wondering if today someone will remember to call. Forgotten is counting the days since your last hug, your last real conversation, your last moment of feeling truly seen. One evening, after dinner, I sat by my window as the sun dipped behind the trees. The hallways were quiet, and the familiar hum of the TV drifted from the lounge. I picked up my phone, thinking I'd call my son. But I hesitated. He always seemed so busy lately, and I didn't want to be a burden. The last thing I wanted was to sound needy or make him feel guilty for living his life. So, I set the phone down and watched the shadows lengthen across my bedspread. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a bad day or a rough week. This was my life now, a collection of slow, quiet days punctuated by rare visits and short phone calls. Yet even in that sadness, I tried to hold on to the love that had always connected my family. I reminded myself that being out of sight doesn't mean being unloved. But it does make it easier for people, even the ones who love you most, to forget just how much you still need them. It's not intentional. It's the busyness of life, the assumption that she's doing fine, the comfort of knowing you're being cared for, so maybe you don't need as much attention. The hardest moments were the holidays. I'd spend days beforehand hoping, planning, picturing my children and grandchildren gathered around me. Sometimes it worked out, and the room was filled with laughter, gifts, and stories. Other times, plans changed at the last minute. Bad weather, a sick child, a work emergency. I'd say, "Don't worry, I understand," and I truly did. But it's hard not to feel left behind when the celebration goes on somewhere else. What surprised me was how quickly loneliness could turn into acceptance. I started filling my time with little routines, reading, doing puzzles, chatting with other residents, joining in on activities even if my heart wasn't always in it. I became the one who listened to others, who noticed when someone else hadn't had a visitor in a while. Sometimes, we'd sit together in silence, comforted by the simple fact that at least we were together. We became each other's family in small, unexpected ways. Still, there were moments when I'd catch my reflection and see a woman I hardly recognized. Not the vibrant mother or grandmother, but someone who had slipped quietly into the background of her own story. Feeling forgotten wasn't just about the absence of others. It was about losing your place in the world you helped build. If you are considering a move to a nursing home, or if someone you love is facing that decision, know that the risk of loneliness is real. The world doesn't stop for you. It keeps spinning, and even the most well-meaning promises can get lost in the whirlwind of everyday life. I wish I'd known how much I would crave the ordinary moments. A knock on the door, a cup of coffee shared in my kitchen, the feeling of being needed, even in small ways. But I also learned that you can reach out, even when it's hard. Sometimes, picking up the phone and saying, "I miss you," is enough to remind your loved ones that you're still here, waiting and loving them from a little further away. And for those on the outside, a simple visit, a letter, or a phone call can mean more than you know. We don't want to be a burden. We just want to feel remembered. So if you're reading this and it sounds familiar, I see you. You're not alone, even when it feels that way. And if you have someone in your life who is older, living in a nursing home, or alone, reach out. Even a small gesture can light up an otherwise quiet day. Because in the end, we all want the same thing: to feel like we matter, to know that our stories aren't over, and to be remembered for the love we gave and the life we lived. 3. Losing my sense of purpose. Of all the changes that came with moving into a nursing home, perhaps none surprised me as much, or cut as deeply, as the gradual loss of my sense of purpose. When you spend your whole life with something to do and someone to care for, you don't realize how much those daily responsibilities shape your identity and give your days their quiet meaning. I always believed purpose was a grand idea, reserved for big achievements or important careers, but the truth is, purpose often lives in the small, ordinary routines that fill up our lives. Back in my own home, every day greeted me with a gentle nudge to get up and move. Even on slow mornings, there were plants in the window box waiting to be watered, laundry to fold, and mail to check. My little house was always in motion, and I was its caretaker, its heartbeat. I cooked my meals, sometimes simple and sometimes a bit of a project, and I took pride in setting the table just so, even if it was only for me. On sunny afternoons, I'd sweep the porch or tend to the flowers in my front yard. When it rained, I'd make a pot of soup or sit by the window with a puzzle. It all felt meaningful because it was mine. I was needed, not by a big audience or the outside world, but by my home, my plants, my memories, and the people who sometimes dropped by just to say hello. Purpose, I realize now, doesn't always come with applause or recognition. It's in the way you care for what's yours, the way you look forward to tomorrow because you know there is something, however small, waiting for you to do. There's a satisfaction in folding your sweaters, in choosing what to cook for dinner, in calling your neighbor to check in on them after a storm. It's the reason to get out of bed, even when your bones ache and the world outside seems gray. When I moved into the nursing home, I told myself it would be a relief to have less to worry about. No more heavy lifting, no more mopping the floors. worrying about leaks or weeds or groceries running low. The staff were kind and efficient. They brought meals, kept the rooms tidy, and made sure everyone had what they needed. I was grateful truly for their care and attention. But after a while, I realized that the very things meant to make my life easier had quietly stolen away the small purposes that once gave me so much quiet satisfaction. Suddenly, my day didn't require much of me. Meals appeared at set times, carefully portioned on plastic trays. The laundry was whisked away and returned neatly folded. The floors stayed clean without me ever lifting a broom. Even the plants in the common room weren't mine to water. There was a routine, certainly, but it was someone else's routine, not mine. I remember meeting George, a fellow resident who, like me, was used to being busy. For most of his life, George had been a carpenter, always building, fixing, shaping wood into something useful. At first, he'd roam the hallways, asking if anyone needed a chair fixed or a loose doorknob tightened. But the nursing home, for all its order, had little need for carpentry. The maintenance staff handled repairs, and there was no workshop where George could tinker. I watched him grow quieter, his hands restless in his lap, his eyes searching for something to do. One day, he told me, with a shrug and a half-smile, "I just want to feel useful again." It struck me how quickly the mind can slow down when nothing is pulling you forward. Days stretch long in a nursing home, with hours spent sitting in a lounge, watching the world go by outside the window, or flipping through the same magazines. Activities are offered, of course, bingo, crafts, music in the afternoons, but sometimes it's not enough. What you crave is that feeling of being needed, of being part of something real, however small. Without a sense of purpose, a strange kind of emptiness settles in. It's not sadness, exactly, but a kind of drifting, as if you've become a passenger in your own life rather than the driver. I found myself waiting for something, anything, to give the day shape. I'd count the hours between meals, wander the halls hoping for a bit of conversation, or volunteer to help the staff set tables, just to feel like I still mattered. The loss of purpose can even sneak into how you see yourself. For me, it showed up in little ways. Less interest in getting dressed up in the morning, less excitement for the books I used to love, less curiosity about the world outside. When people stop asking you for help or needing your advice, it's easy to start believing you have nothing left to give. You begin to wonder, who am I if I'm not busy, not useful, not needed? But here's what I've learned, slowly and sometimes painfully, over these past months. Purpose can be rebuilt, even in new circumstances. It takes intention and a willingness to look for meaning in places you might have once overlooked. I began reaching out to other residents, learning their stories, and sharing my own. I found that listening to someone else's worries or joys can bring purpose back into your day. I started writing letters again, to my grandchildren, to old friends, to people I hadn't spoken to in years. Sometimes I'd offer to help in the activity room, setting up chairs or passing out papers. It wasn't much, but it reminded me I still had something to offer. There were setbacks, days when I felt invisible or unimportant, days when I missed my old routines so much it hurt. But I discovered that, even here, I could find new rhythms. Purpose doesn't always come knocking. It sometimes waits to be invited in. I started keeping a journal, jotting down one thing I was grateful for each day, no matter how small. Some days, it was as simple as enjoying a good cup of tea or sharing a laugh with a nurse. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you're facing the prospect of leaving your home for a nursing facility, I hope you'll remember this. You may lose some of the old purposes, but you don't have to lose all of them. It's okay to grieve the routines and the responsibilities you once had. But don't let that grief stop you from reaching for new ones. There are still people to love, stories to share, small ways to contribute, and make each day a little brighter for yourself or someone else. Purpose is not always about being busy. Sometimes it's about being present, being kind, and letting yourself matter in whatever way you can. I still miss the days of tending my garden and bustling around my kitchen, but I know now that life still holds meaning, even in a smaller, quieter package. If you look for it, you'll find it, often in the most unexpected places. And maybe, just maybe, by seeking purpose each day, we keep a part of our old selves alive, while making room for the person we're still becoming. 4. Declining health faster than expected. There are life changes you brace yourself for, and others that seem to sneak up on you when you least expect them. I'd always considered myself fairly healthy for my age. Never the athletic type, but I managed my grocery runs, kept my little apartment tidy, and enjoyed daily walks around my neighborhood. My doctors would nod in approval at my blood pressure, my steady pulse, and my list of home-cooked meals. I had aches and pains, sure, but nothing that made me think I was on the brink of losing my independence. So when I moved into the nursing home, I thought, at least my health won't be something to worry about for a long while yet. It seemed like a relief that help would be close by, just in case. The building was bright and clean, with sturdy handrails and call buttons in every room. The staff made a point of checking on everyone regularly, and the meals arrived on a schedule, nutritious, if a little bland. My family, and even a part of me, believed this place would help me stay healthier, longer. But I was caught off guard by how quickly things changed once I settled in. In the first weeks, the little conveniences felt like luxuries. No more worrying about slipping in the shower. Someone was always there to help. No more standing at the stove when my knees ached. Meals appeared 3 times a day, like clockwork. I told myself I'd use this newfound freedom to try a new puzzle, to rest and recover. I thought, now I can finally slow down and enjoy a little pampering. Yet, bit by bit, I began to notice something different happening in my body. At home, there had always been reasons to get up and move. If I wanted lunch, I had to make it. If I wanted clean laundry, I had to carry it to the machine. If I wanted fresh air, I walked around the yard, feeling the grass under my feet. Now, all that movement, the subtle exercise of living, was missing. Days slipped into each other, with less and less asked of my muscles, my joints, my very willpower. It started subtly. The walks down the hallway felt longer, and I'd look for a chair halfway to rest. I told myself, it's just a slow day. But then, slow days became the norm. My legs, once sturdy enough to climb stairs, started feeling stiff after only a short shuffle to the dining room. Getting up from a chair, something I'd never thought twice about, suddenly required a bit of rocking and pushing. My arms, too, seemed to lose their strength. Opening jars, carrying a small bag, or even pulling the covers up at night became a chore. I remember watching the same thing happen to others around me. When I first arrived, there was Alice, a petite woman with quick wit and a habit of power walking the hallways. She was determined to prove she didn't need help, striding everywhere with her walker, always offering a bright, good morning. But one day, I noticed she wasn't at breakfast. Later, I found her in her room, rubbing her knees, looking smaller somehow. I don't know when it happened, she confided, but I just can't seem to get going anymore. Before long, Alice was using a wheelchair more often than her walker, and she joked less. I could see the frustration in her eyes. She'd lost something precious, and so had I. The truth is, when everything is designed to make life easier, your body quickly forgets how to work hard. At home, every little task kept me active. In the nursing home, it was all too easy to let others do for me what I used to do for myself. At first, it felt like kindness, but I began to see it was making me weaker, not stronger. I started sitting more and moving less. My balance wasn't what it used to be. I found myself hesitating at the top of 3 little steps, heart pounding in a way it never used to. I tried to push myself, but it was hard. The days followed a set rhythm, and opportunities for spontaneous movement faded. Group exercise was scheduled just twice a week, And even then, it was more stretching than real exertion. I joined in, but it wasn't enough. I missed the times I'd find myself lost in a task, reaching and bending and lifting without a second thought. I missed feeling needed by my own life. One afternoon, I overheard a nurse talking to another resident about deconditioning. She said, "The less you do, the less you're able to do, and it can happen fast." The words sank into me, heavy as a stone. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the last few months in my mind. How long had it been since I'd gone for a proper walk? Since I'd prepared my meal or knelt in the garden? When did my body begin to feel like a stranger's, heavy, sluggish, and stubborn? It's not just about physical strength, either. As my body slowed, my mind sometimes felt foggy too. With fewer tasks to manage, fewer decisions to make, I noticed I was forgetting the names of new neighbors or losing track of the days. My world shrank to the four walls of my room and the handful of faces I saw every day. Some of my neighbors began spending more time napping, drifting in and out of sleep in front of the television, their eyes unfocused. There's an emotional cost, too. Losing physical independence chips away at your confidence. I started doubting myself. Could I still manage at home if I wanted to leave? Would I be able to visit my daughter, walk the mall, or even cross a parking lot safely? These questions crept in and stayed. The more I leaned on help, the less I trusted my abilities. It's a hard thing to admit, but living in a place where easy is the default can quietly take a toll. The staff meant well, and I'm grateful for their help, but I wish someone had encouraged me to keep moving, to keep fighting for every bit of strength. Maybe then, I wouldn't have felt myself aging 10 years in just a few months. Looking back, I would do some things differently. I'd set little challenges for myself, standing up and sitting down a few extra times, walking a lap of the hallway before lunch, joining every exercise class, even if I was tired. I would have spoken up, asked for more opportunities to be active. Because once you start to slow down, it's so much harder to get going again. If you or someone you love is considering moving into a nursing home, I hope you remember my story. Don't let the comforts lull you into stillness. Movement, no matter how small, is not just a privilege, it's survival. Every step you take, every task you do for yourself, helps you stay strong, clear-minded, and most importantly, independent. Aging brings challenges, and accepting help is sometimes necessary. But don't surrender your strength, your routines, or your pride if you can help it. Your body and your spirit are worth fighting for every single day. 5. Loss of privacy and dignity. One of the most difficult and unexpected challenges I faced after moving into the nursing home was the loss of my privacy and dignity. It's something no one talks about much before you go, but once you're there, it becomes a part of your everyday reality. One that's harder to accept than you might imagine. At home, I had my own space. My bedroom was a sanctuary where I could close the door and be alone with my thoughts, my memories, or simply enjoy a quiet moment. I could dress how I wanted, choose when and where to be, and take care of my personal needs with complete privacy. That sense of control felt like a basic human right, something I had never thought twice about because it was just part of daily life. But the nursing home was different. From the moment I arrived, I realized that privacy was a luxury here, not a given. My room was smaller than I'd expected, and sharing it with a roommate meant my personal space was limited. Sometimes my roommate would have visitors or guests, sometimes she was restless at night or noisy, and I had no say in when those interruptions happened. I tried to make the space feel like home, bringing pictures, a favorite blanket, a few personal belongings, but it was never truly mine. More than that, I found myself constantly aware that staff were coming in and out throughout the day. Scheduled checks meant someone would enter without always knocking, or before I could respond. I had to ask for help with the most private things: bathing, dressing, using the bathroom. And even though the staff were kind, it was humiliating to lose the independence I'd held for so long. I remember struggling with the idea of having to press a call button and then wait for assistance just to use the restroom. It was a shock to my pride and a blow to my dignity. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Even small choices, like what to wear or what to eat, were often taken out of my hands. If I didn't like what was on the menu, there was little I could do about it. I realized that my preferences were no longer the priority. They were often overshadowed by schedules, routines, and the needs of the many residents being cared for. One of the hardest parts was accepting that my daily routines were dictated by a system I didn't control. Wanting to take a shower meant waiting until someone was available to help. Wanting to go outside sometimes required permission and assistance, not just a simple decision on my part. The feeling of always needing to ask, to wait, to depend, it was exhausting and demoralizing. Dignity isn't just about how you look or what you do. It's about feeling respected, valued, and in control of your own life. I never expected to have to surrender so much of that when I moved into a nursing home. Sometimes, I felt more like a patient on a schedule than a person with a story, preferences, and feelings. If you're thinking about a nursing home or helping someone make that decision, ask yourself if you're prepared for this loss of privacy and control. It's a difficult trade-off, and once it's gone, reclaiming your dignity can be much harder than you think. Despite all this, I found moments of grace, small acts of kindness from staff who understood what I was going through, a roommate's smile, a friend's quiet conversation in the hallway. These moments helped me hold on to my sense of self, even when the environment felt overwhelming. Remember, dignity matters at every age. You deserve to be treated with respect, to have your choices honored, and to live in a way that feels true to you. Protecting your privacy and dignity is worth fighting for, no matter where you live. 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. One of the hardest truths I faced after moving into the nursing home was realizing just how difficult it was to leave once you've settled in. Before I moved, I told myself it would be a temporary trial to see if this new environment suited me, a chance to take a break and maybe regain some strength. I imagined that if I didn't like it, I could simply pack up and return to my own home. But that hope, as comforting as it was, slowly began to fade. The reality was far more complicated. My house back home, once full of life and memories, had become a distant place. Keeping up with bills, maintenance, and the everyday tasks from afar was challenging. My children, with the best intentions, had started making decisions about the house, selling furniture, renting out rooms, even considering selling the property entirely. It felt like my home was slipping away while I was trying to find my place in this new world. Physical changes added to the challenge. After months of living in a place where help was always close by, where meals appeared without effort, and the stairs disappeared, my body felt weaker than I expected. Tasks I once managed alone, getting dressed, cooking a simple meal, even walking around the block, became daunting. The confidence I had in my ability to live independently was shaken. That fear of managing alone made the idea of leaving the nursing home overwhelming, even if my heart longed for the familiar comforts of home. Emotionally, it was just as hard. The nursing home had slowly become my world, a routine I knew even if I didn't love it. Change felt risky, uncertain, and scary. Would I be safe? Would I be lonely? Would I be able to ask for help when I needed it? These questions swirled through my mind as I weighed the possibility of leaving. I met others who faced the same dilemma. Some had planned short stays but found themselves unable to return home. Homes were sold or rented out, savings were drained by care costs, and physical or emotional barriers made moving back impossible. What began as a temporary decision became permanent by circumstance, not choice. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, please consider this. Leaving is not always as simple as you might believe. It's a step with consequences, financial, physical, and emotional, that need to be weighed carefully. The decision deserves the time, thought, and discussion it requires, because once you settle in, the barriers to leaving can be higher than expected. But remember, no matter where you live, your worth and your dignity remain. Whether you stay or go, what matters most is that you feel safe, respected, and cared for in a way that honors who you are. And if you find yourself in a nursing home now, know that you're not alone. Many have walked this path and understand the complexity of the journey ahead. Take your time. Seek support. And always trust that your voice matters, whether you're moving forward, staying put, or finding a new way to live well on your terms. Looking back on my journey, I don't regret growing older. That's a natural part of life we all share. But I do regret believing that moving into a nursing home was the only option for me. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a place that slowly took away my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and even pieces of who I was. That's not to say all nursing homes are the same. Some provide incredible care and support for those who truly need it. But before you or a loved one make such a life-changing decision, I urge you to pause and think about what you might be giving up. The freedoms you have today, your routines, your choices, your ability to live on your terms, are precious, and once they're gone, it's not always easy to get them back. If I could go back, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, explored more ways to get help without giving up my freedom, and made sure I truly needed to be there before moving. This is your life, your story, and you deserve to hold on to your dignity for as long as possible. I hope sharing my experience helps you face these decisions with more clarity and confidence. You deserve to live well, to be respected, and to feel valued every single day. Please take a moment to share what you've learned from this story and how it might shape your choices moving forward. Remember, you are not alone, and your voice matters.